Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hopefully from my last video you guys were able to make some progress with your bird. I did go through and I read all of your comments and all of your questions, and I tried to respond to as many comments and questions as I could. So at this stage, your bird should be comfortable flying back and forth to you, and they should be proficient with just basic recall. Smokey, come. Come. Good girl. So from a very short distance, your bird should already fly to you on cue. What we're going to work on is exactly what I just showed you. We're going to work on two things today. Training your bird to fly back to perch, because you don't always want to have to walk them back and put them back in the perch. And also the second thing that we're going to work on is we're going to increase the distance. So once your bird is comfortable flying back and forth to you from a very short distance, you want to gradually increase the distance. So I'm going to move about 2.5 feet away from the bird now and call her, Smokey, come. Good girl, Smokey, and reward her. At the same time, since I'm not that far away from the perch, I'm going to also train Smokey to go back to the perch by holding a treat in my other hand. And I'm just going to make a motion like this back to the perch. I'm going to say, perch. And just have her step back up onto the perch. Good girl. And when she does that, I reward her with a treat. So the cue for going back could be whatever verbal cue you want. One advice that I'll give you guys though is that instead of, for example, instead of me saying go back to the perch, I'm going to choose a very short verbal cue. Like instead of saying go back to the perch, I'll simply say perch. Good girl, and reward for perching. Okay, let me show you that again. So Smokey, come. Good girl. And when you send her back to the perch, again, it's important to hold a treat in your other hand and just make that motion. Perch. Good girl, and reward her with a treat. So you guys are probably wondering, how is this going to work? I mean, you don't always want to have to hold a treat and kind of motion her to go back to the perch, because you want to be able to go from far away. Smokey, come. Good. And then you want to be able to motion her back to the perch without always walking back to the perch. So what I want to do is eventually, I want to take this treat and put it away and instead just use my finger and go, perch, good girl, and reward with a treat. So again guys, it's really simple. So after a while when your bird is comfortable and after your bird learns to go back to the perch using the treat, whoa, you can see that Smokey's already kind of ahead of me. So Smokey, come. Good girl. You can simply put the treats away and using just one finger, motion her back to the perch. And also use your verbal on cue. Perch. Good girl. So this time you also want to not only increase the distance gradually, but I would also work on increasing the angle of ascent and the angle of descent with your bird. So Smokey, come. I'm going to put my hand a little bit higher. Good girl. And motion her back. Perch. Good girl. And gradually increase the distance. Smokey, come. Good girl. Perch. Good. Okay, let's move a little bit farther. Smokey. Good girl. Perch. Good, Smokey. Now there are two things I also want to mention that I think is very important. And that is, first, when you guys are training your bird for flight, make sure that you always remain calm. As much as you can read your bird's body language, they are also very good at reading your body language. So if your bird senses that you're not very calm and it seems like there's something that's a threat in the environment, they're not going to want to take off. So it's just their instinct that if you seem, for example, really uptight and it seems like you're really kind of anxious and nervous, they're going to pick up on that. And they're not going to want to take off from the perch if they sense that there's some kind of threat in the environment. And the second, and also something that's super important that I want you guys to take away from this video, is that during this entire time that I'm training Smokey, I want you to see that her flights are very controlled. She knows exactly where she's going, and I'm not pushing her, I'm not throwing her away from my hand. And that's really important because I see that when a lot of people flight train their birds, they easily get frustrated. And when the birds, for example, don't comply, they kind of launch the bird off, or they kind of take the bird against the bird's will, and then throw the bird, hoping that the bird's going to figure it out. And I'll talk to you guys more about why that's dangerous later on. But it's very important that you guys make sure you always read your bird. If it seems like you're having difficulty and you're moving like farther away, then it means that you need to take a step back and bring your bird closer to the perch. Take it at their pace. Perch. You guys can also see that when I'm cueing Smokey fly to me and also back to the perch, based on kind of like her body language, you can tell that she's really confident in what she's doing. That's because I never force her and I never try to put her into an uncomfortable position. I always go at her pace, so she knows exactly, oops, go ahead. She knows exactly what she's capable of. And she also knows that I'm not going to try to push her into doing something that is going to put her in harm's way. Smokey, come. Good girl. Alright guys, so the last few things that I want to mention before I close up this video is after flight training Smokey for a while, there's some days when she just is really reluctant to fly. And I would later on find out that she's growing like a new blood feather. Just be aware and be cognizant of that. Far too often I see people that have a really hard time getting the bird to fly, especially an adult bird. So what I see them doing is they would take the bird and they would throw the bird up in the air. And even in the video, you can see visibly the bird flying around the room and crashing really hard into a wall. I would really advise you guys against ever doing that. Because if you think about it, the whole reason why you probably want to flight train your bird is you want to improve the quality of life. You want them to enjoy flying. But if you're taking your bird and you're just throwing them off and they're crashing into the wall, then they're going to build up this really negative perception of using their wings. So always make sure that you guys take your time, and like I said in my first video, take your time and do it well the first time. Always set them up for success. Take it very small steps, take it baby steps. That way when your bird does learn to fly, they kind of associate that with a very positive experience and they enjoy flying later on. I have to admit that I always have to remind myself of this every training session. Because sometimes you get so into flight training them because it's an exhilarating experience to see your bird in the air, but to see how much they are progressing in the training session, that sometimes you forget to kind of notice that your bird is tiring out. So if you do notice that your bird is kind of getting too tired, you gotta call it quits. You don't want to work your bird to exhaustion because, again, you want to make this a fun and a positive experience for your bird. Last but not least, guys, treats are good, but you don't always want to have to rely on treats. So Smokey, come. A lot of the times, I'll simply call Smokey over, and a head scratch itself is very rewarding for her. Right, Smokes? So, treats are great training tools. But don't be limited to just using treats. Just like I tell people, don't be limited just using affection or toys as rewards. Really use everything that you guys see that your bird enjoys. Maybe if it's getting on the sofa, maybe if it's getting on top of their cage. Whatever it is that they enjoy, use those to your advantage as a reward in training. Alright guys, so I felt like that was a lot of information all in one video. So hopefully it made sense, and hopefully you guys were able to, despite what level of experience you have with flight training, hopefully you guys were able to benefit somehow from at least something in that video. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys click the like button below and also subscribe to my channel. If you guys have questions, make sure you also go back to my channel because more often than not, your questions might already be answered in some of my other videos. I don't know when my next upload is going to be. Hopefully it won't be too long from now, but I will see you guys all next time. Happy training, and I hope that you guys will be able to use my videos to build a better relationship with your bird.